Welcome to the Sherri Johnson Show, the podcast for real estate agents who are ready to stop chasing their next deal and start building a business that provides predictable and consistent monthly income to even double or even triple your income and sales production in less than a year. I'm Sherri Johnson, international real estate coach, speaker, consultant, and the creator of the exclusive Goldmine Pipeline strategy that's helped thousands of agents add over 6 figures to even 7 figures to their bottom line. If you're ready to generate more leads, crush your income goals, and finally play the long game, you're in the right place. Let's dig in. Hey everybody, it's Sherri Johnson. I'm so excited we are back for the Sherri Johnson Show podcast. Today's guest, I have Pete Middleton from Pete Knows Real Estate, and you will see him both in Nashville as well as La Jolla, California. Pete, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's going to be a great show. You've got decades of experience. I want to hear, where did you start real estate and the beginnings? And was that in Boston? Did you start real estate?
Yeah, it's a great question. I started real estate in Brockton, Massachusetts. So both my parents were in real estate. My aunt and uncle were in real estate. And I started going to my parents' office when I was around 8 years old. And I was the kind of 8-year-old following my dad around, utility guy, doing all the miscellaneous things that they needed in the office. I get paid to empty the trash cans, to stock the kitchen, to clean the signs, to whatever they needed, I did. And I would do that on the weekends with him. And then he would take me to lunch, or we would go get ice cream or something. It would be very similar if you're trying to teach somebody, a little kid, how to play golf or do something else. My training ground was that on Saturday weekends or Sundays. And he would take me to his development sites and a lot of different things. So I was immersed in that at an early age, because back then, Sherri, and you'll laugh, there were no cell phones, of course.
No.
And my parents had two rotary phones at the house. One was a regular phone. The other one was like the bat phone. It was like a red phone. And the office would ring at the house. So when my dad was home for dinner with all of us, if a phone call came in, he would answer the phone and I would hear this in real time. So it was a great opportunity to really be trained correctly over the years by somebody who had mastered real estate and sales. So that was my early training. I started with them when I turned 22.
Okay.
That was 1992. And I've been doing real estate now. I'm in my 34th year. I was his number one agent at one point, and I was managing his main office when I was 25. And then what I ended up doing after that was I decided one day I wasn't going to stay in Brockton. My average price was around $93,000. And there used to be this Sotheby's show on at night at like 2 a.m, showing luxury real estate being sold down in Barbados, of all places. And I used to watch that. And I was like, wow, look at these houses that they're selling. And I started calculating professional fees and saying, this is unbelievable. And what really caused me, or the universe pushed me in the right path, was I went to a Brian Buffini event on February 12th. And that was 1996.
Oh my
And
God.
it was freezing out. So I'll paint the picture of New England at that time. Everything's dead. You've already had probably 15 snowstorms, right? Probably sounds like Cleveland. And I go to this event. My parents always taught me to introduce yourself to each person on each side of you, because you never know who you're going to meet and how that'll change your path. Okay. So there was this guy sitting next to me named Jamie. He had this beautiful tan. And I said, there's no way this guy is from Massachusetts, because nobody's tan in February unless you go to like Tanorama or one of those suntan places. And he had this magnificent tan. And I said, hey, I'm Pete Middleton. He said, I'm Jamie Hopkins. I said, hey, Jamie, nice to meet you. And Jamie said, how much business did you do last year? And I said, well, I sold 116 houses for 12.9 million. And he started laughing. He's like, that's a joke, right? And I said, no. So the other guy with me, who also grew up with me in Brockton, leaned in and said, do you want me to punch him now or after the seminar? And I said, well, let's see where this goes first. And he goes, look, I'm not trying to offend you guys. You just caught me off guard with those numbers. How many people are on your team? And I said, what are you talking about? I don't have a team. He goes, oh, then how many assistants do you have? I said, none. I run the office. And he goes, so you did 116 sales,
Wow.
12.9 million by yourself. And I said, yeah. And I go to every single closing. And he goes, how many hours a week are you working? I said, probably 70 to 80 hours a week. And I said, I also do flips and I'm building new construction and I own apartments. And he's like, wow. He goes, this is crazy. And I said, yeah. I said, I sold 116, but 86 actually closed because we have it's a tough city. And I said, okay, so how many did you sell? He said, I sold 19 houses. And I said, oh, okay. And I'm thinking, well, this guy has the nerve to laugh at me. He's laughing in my face. And he goes, but I did 19 for 38 million. And I work around 40 hours a week, 35, 40 hours. And I said, time out, light bulb, huge explosion. Where are you doing this? He said, I'm in Laguna Niguel. I said, I don't even know where that, you could have told me it was on the face of Mars. I'm like, where is Laguna Niguel? He said, it's just south of LA. I said, LA, like California, LA? He said, yes. That triggered my path that changed my whole life. I went home that night. I had a beautiful house on the golf course in Brockton that I bought at 25 years old. I'm sitting there at 2 a.m, Sherri, and I start writing. And I start writing out and speaking into existence.
I love this.
What I was going to do. And I wrote it all out in present tense, but it was future present tense. So what I mean by that is I wrote down the first paragraph was it was October 13th, 1996. My car is packed. I sold my house to my brother. It's sunny out. I'm getting prepared. I'm driving across the United States. I'm going to golf across America, and I'm going to arrive in San Diego November 30th, 1996 to start from scratch, a whole new career, whole new setup in La Jolla. So that was written out. Then my next paragraph was, it's 10 years later. This is where I'm at. I'm going to have a powerful team in La Jolla, be one of the top agents in luxury real estate, representing luxury buyers and sellers, making investments in La Jolla, and so forth. And then the third one was, it's 2010. I have just built my own brokerage. I'm going to sell it to the biggest brokerage in the world. And I wrote all this out. So can't sleep. I'm super excited. I get done with this at 3 o'clock in the morning. I go to bed and I had to be at my parents' office every day at 7:45. And I either had to be in a suit or I had to be in a blazer with slacks with polished shoes. No exceptions, with a tie. I was 25 at the time. I looked like I was 12. And I remember at 6:45 in the morning, my older brother coming into my room saying, it snowed again. I have to go to work. You have to help me shovel. And I get up and it's freezing out and I'm shoveling. And I wrote out all these things to talk to my parents. So I go into the office early. I walk in. I talk to my dad's assistant, who's like a sister to me. She worked for my dad for 40 years. And I go in and I say, listen, I need to meet with my dad. She said he has a pretty full schedule. You know, he's doing all these commercial development deals. I said, I understand. I need 5 minutes. And I'm getting my gusto up, right? I'm super nervous. I have all my stuff written out. I go up to his office. He gives me 5 minutes and he says, what's up? How are we doing this month? I said, great. I wanted to let you know I'm going to San Diego. He said, hold that thought. He buzzes down, right? Rotary phone. Beep. Remember, you used to push the button, buzzes down. He buzzed down to my mother. He says, come on up. Pete's got big news. He's going on vacation. I said, no, I'm not going on vacation. He said, well, just wait for your mother. My mother was the number one listing agent in the office. Who do you think her assistant was?
You.
Yes. So she came up.
And your dad, it's Frank Middleton Real Estate, right?
Yes,
Frank.
yes. And
Okay.
he, him and his partner owned 13 Century 21 franchise offices, and they split off from that. He started his own brokerage and he had 3 offices. So he's upstairs with us, and my mother comes up and they start having this side conversation where my dad says, Pete's going to San Diego. Do you remember when we went to San Diego and we went to the zoo and we went to the Del Coronado and the weather was beautiful? And I can't get a word in. And they're talking. They're like, hey, you've been working hard and you've sold a lot of houses. You should go to San Diego. Go for 2 weeks and come back and we'll sell more houses and build more houses. And I'm like, no. And I said, I'm leaving. And they're like, what do you mean? You run our main office. And I said, no, October 13th, I'm leaving. And he's like, well, you own 15 houses. What are you going to do? I said, well, I'm going to have you manage them. He goes, no, I have all my own stuff. I can't manage them. I said, then I'll sell them. I said, I'm moving there and I'm never coming back. And they were flabbergasted. They were like, what? But what about the business? And I said, I can't stay here. I have to go. I have a calling to be in luxury real estate. I have a calling to play in upper echelon. And this is something I need to do. I've really thought this out. And they were blown away. They were like, okay. So October 13th came and I left and sold off most of my places. And I arrived in San Diego November 30th. And the reason why I arrived that date, there may be people on this podcast saying, why did you arrive November 30th? Why were you so specific?
Yeah.
And in all transparency, the Patriots were playing the Chargers on Sunday Night Football in San Diego on December 1st. So I had to get there before that game because I'm a big Patriots fan. So that was a huge thing. And then I get there, I don't know where I am. And I stay with my best friend who's living out there because he went to law school. And I say to him, all right, I'm starting my luxury real estate profession out here from scratch. Who do you know? And he turns to his girlfriend. He says, I know her. And I said, okay, who do you know? She said, I know him. I go, aren't you guys a perfect pair? You're like a perfect match. You know no one else? Like, no. So I said, okay, I'll start off with 2 people. And then I built it from there. So I joined Remax. I was at Remax 9 years, loved Remax. Ended up building a big team at Remax. I think we're 21 in the world. Left Remax 2005, joined Keller Williams, was at Keller Williams, owned the market center for La Jolla from 2006 to 2010. Loved Keller Williams, loved the concept, loved how they have everything set up and the training and the people, and wouldn't have traded for the world. And then 2010, I said I have to follow through with what I wrote down roughly 14 years earlier. And I started my own luxury boutique firm in La Jolla. I built it up to 51 agents, and I did it with the end game in mind. I do everything from the end back. So I look at the end game or the result I want, and I work backwards. So what I did was I built this brokerage, very high end, very boutique, with the intent of selling it by 2015. And in 2014, I'm still to this day super grateful about this. I was able to sell the brokerage to Realogy, which is now Anywhere, which is now Compass.
Correct.
And Realogy bought it, and I had a 5-year non-compete. I rebuilt my team up to 20 agents, and I honored my 5-year non-compete. And in 2019, which was October 6th, 2019, I joined EXP. So that's been kind of my journey.
Wow.
But that's the power of writing in future tense. And I'm a big believer in speaking into existence what you want and manifesting that. So that's what's kind of guided me. It was not, I know there may be people out there saying, well, oh, he was in San Diego. It was not the San Diego of today. And it was really challenging to move to a new area, learn the market, not have the connections I had, and start from scratch, start over, and really, for better words, grind it out. I didn't speak like anybody out there. I didn't
Right.
look like anybody out there. So I had to kind of recreate myself with how I branded and how I looked and showed up. And that was the big thing.
Especially coming from the East Coast.
Yeah.
It's a completely different thing. And, speaking it into existence, I am the exact same way. This is so crazy. And I love that you're talking like this, because you said, start with the end and work backwards. Where do you want to be? What's the end goal? Right? Start with the end and work backwards. And that is exactly what people need to do. You built an iconic luxury brand multiple times, reinvented yourself in a city that you literally started from scratch. You knew two people, your best friend and his, I guess, girlfriend, right? Those two people.
Now his wife, yes.
Now wife. You went out there by yourself, I take it, right? You weren't married.
Well, no, I wasn't married. Dennis D'Souza, who actually brought me into EXP, who was working at my parents' company, I trained him, which was kind of funny. So Dennis was 2.5 years older than me. He wanted to get into real estate, and he showed up at my parents' office in 1993. And I had been in the business a year and a half. And my father said, listen, I don't really have a training program, but my son Pete's been coming here since he was 8. He knows the ropes. He'll show you the ropes. So Dennis shadowed me for like 3 to 6 months. And I was training Dennis, and we became very, very good friends. He's one of my best friends.
Yeah.
And when I told him I was leaving 3 years later, he was blown away. And he said, I don't know if I want to stay here. I'm not connected here. My parents are here, but I don't know if I want to spend the rest of my life in this city. And he wanted to go to Phoenix. And I said, look, you can go to Phoenix all you want. I already have this written out. This is my destiny. I already know my path. I know where I'm going. I'm burning all the boats. There's no turning back. There's no way I'm going to fail. And I just had unbelievable determination. And he said, well, do you mind? Look at the dogs are even barking right now. He said, do you mind if I come along? And I said, well, I know you like to golf, and we basically have hung out for 3 years. Sure. And he said, but I'll only do it if you agree to go into business with me, or I can go into business with you, and we'll be partners and do it together. I said, fine. So we joined RE/MAX together. We had a great partnership for roughly, 4 years. And then it separated amicably. And he remained with RE/MAX when I went to Keller Williams. And then when I sold my company to Realogy and they converted me to a Coldwell Banker Global Luxury office, he ended up joining Coldwell Banker later on. And then one day he sent me a video and said, look, my buddy Mitch in Orlando sent me this video. Would you watch it? You have more insight in brokerage than most people have, right? Because of how you grew up in it. Just tell me what you think. And I watched it. And at that point, you have to remember, I was 3 years into a 5-year non-compete with Realogy.
Yeah.
And I kept saying to my wife, I need to do something different. Things are going to get streamlined. I have to get out in front of this. And people are not going to be necessarily coming to offices. They're going to be buying properties off their phones. And it's going to be way more, the processes will be way more streamlined. And as technology grows, you have to be out in front of this or you're going to be left behind. She heard this month after month after month because I was planning my next move. What was I going to do? And when he sent me that video and I watched it, I immediately grabbed her and I said, look, somebody sent me a video. It's 30 minutes long. It's this guy, Gene Frederick, speaking, who I love to death. Gene's a really dear friend of mine.
Fabulous.
And I said, this is one of those moments where my intuition is buzzing, but you're the person I trust the most. And I want to see what you see in it, because you're not in real estate, but you've been living with me around real estate for a long period of time. And it also affects you and our family and our future. And I just want your take on it. So I poured her a glass of wine. I put on the video.
Yeah.
I timed 30 minutes, came back, poured her another glass of wine, sat in our home office. And I said, what do you think? And like it happened 5 minutes ago, and it gives me goosebumps. She turned in her chair and she said, why are you not doing this? She goes, this is the future of real estate. This is everything you've been talking to me about, and it's already built. It's already done. Why are you not doing it? She goes, you should be doing this tomorrow. And I said, I feel the same way. However, we were paid a ton of money by a company that had faith in me to buy my company. And, you know, how I was raised is you honor your commitments and you honor everything else. And that's what I did. And I said, I feel stuck. I can't leave. And she goes, well, if you think we should break it, I'm on board. And I said, we'll get sued. We're in California, the land of litigation. And I just said, I don't want to break my word. So I did not join. That was 2017.
Wow.
Right? Sound familiar, Sherri? Right? So I called back. Dennis said, what do you think? I said, I think it's phenomenal. I can't do anything, but I'll entertain it when the time is right. And I knew I was going to do it, but I didn't want to commit to anything yet.
Yeah.
And, you know, the rest is history. I joined October 6, 2019. I had looked at a lot of different opportunities were presented to me. Berkshire Hathaway, Sotheby's, Compass, some locals, Banker Global Luxury, the agency. I mean, a lot of different people came, which I was flattered by, and I was grateful.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest one was Compass. You know, Compass, in full disclosure, offered me $1.5 million to walk my team over. And I had a team of 20. They were going to pay for my office for a year. And that was 2019. The market was pretty sketchy in California. It was a really grindy market in the luxury space. And I remember going home, my wife was like, you know, we could really use that money. That would be a good launch pad for investing and diversifying. And I said, yeah. And I said, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit out on our balcony and I'm going to pray to God and I'm going to listen to my intuition like I always do.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make a final decision and I'm going to go into the office tomorrow and share it with everyone. And that's what I did. I sat there for around 30 minutes and the message that I kept receiving, because I think if you ask, you'll receive certain messages in your life. And it's never a perfect time. It's never a perfect scenario. It's never all the stars aren't going to align. And I kept coming back to one premise. And that premise was, if I take the money, I'll do fine, but it'll affect one family. If I don't take the money, it affects 20 families. So to me, it was a pretty clear-cut choice. I went in the next day. I said, look, I've done all the research. They all thought we were joining Compass, which is a good company. And I said, I've decided for myself and my family to do this. I'm not expecting you to do that. But if you believe in my leadership and that my knowledge in brokerage, I would love the opportunity to continue to work with you.
Yeah.
And I would ask that you would make this decision within 24 hours so that we can transition over the right way as a group. And everybody joined. Everybody said, you know, we believe in you. And a woman came up to me and she said, I don't get it. I know there was a lot of money on the table. And I know that would help you and your kids, your wife. And I said, I appreciate that. And she goes, you're one of the most selfless leaders I've ever met, which was one of the highest compliments I think I've ever received in business. And she said, can I ask you a question? I said, yes. She said, why? because she said, I'm just being honest. I don't think I would do that. And I don't want you to make a mistake for your family. And I said, there's no mistake. I said, I listen to my intuition. And I said, I'll just be completely upfront with you. If I take this money, does it help me and my family? Yes, it does. However, if I don't take the money, I impact 20 families forever. And that, I said, is too great of an opportunity to not take that leap. And that was that. And the rest is history. I came on and I was super nervous, Sherri, because I had 24 high-end listings. And I remember sitting in my office and I'm like, okay, so how do I explain this unbelievable model, this unbelievable future thinking gift that the universe has sent me to my clients? And I remember, kind of pacing around my office, trying to get my pitch down, how it's forward thinking and fantastic technology and global exposure. And it's a business model that I can plug my business in and run it the way I want. And how it's going to benefit my clients because it's going to allow us navigate any market and any marketing and anything in the high-end ultra luxury market. And I remember how nervous I was. And then I just finally said, you know something, screw it. I picked up the phone and I started with the first listing and I went through all 24 in an hour. And here's the amazing part. It was all in my head because every person I called and I said, look, I'm making a move. It's going to benefit you. It's going to benefit how we market your house. It's going to benefit how we expose your house. It's a higher caliber of technology that will benefit us on every level with helping you accomplish your goals. Not my goals, your goals. And they said, what's the name? I told them. They said, who are we listed with now? I said, Coldwell Banker Global Luxury. They said, we didn't even know that. Do we get you? I said, yes. You get more of me. You get more attention because I'm going to have way more flexibility with my business. They said, send us the paperwork. All 24 people. That was the same exact conversation. And all 24 transferred over.
Love it.
And that was on October 6th,
2019.
2019.
I remember in one of the things you say in your promotional video, you got to make a move to get ahead.
Always. You cannot stay. So everybody listening out there, everything you want in life is just outside your comfort zone. But most people are so comfortable, they won't break through that ceiling. And listen, I'm human. I'm like everybody else. I have good days. I have bad days. I have mental days. I have days that I'm talking to myself. But I have a philosophy that my wife has instilled in me because she's definitely way more evolved than I am. And it's called flipping the switch. So if I feel that I'm going down a path, which a lot of people watching this happens to all of us. So you're not alone. And you're going down a path and you're creating all this anxiety, all this self-talk in your head on why it's not going to work or why I shouldn't do it or why it's not the right timing. You have to flip the switch. You can give yourself 10 minutes of grace, but then you have to take massive action. Everything you want in life is by taking massive action. You want more luxury listings or luxury sales? Take massive action. Call 100 people and ask them what you can do for them. How can you serve them? How can you make their life better? Take massive action and the results will follow. So I'm a big believer that everything you want in life is outside your comfort zone. You just have to break through it. And sometimes it's painful. Sometimes it is something that feels not like it's the right timing or it's uncomfortable, right? But you have to get out in front of it and you have to get ahead of it. If you don't, you're going to look back and live in regret saying, that was my opportunity. I didn't take advantage of it. So for all the people listening, I know what you're thinking. Oh, well, I have a bunch of escrows going or a bunch of listings. When I left KW, I had 39 listings. I had 32 escrows that month. Guess what? It all worked out. When I left Coldwell Banker, I had 24 high-end listings. I had around 28 escrows that month. It all worked out. So don't push your life for timing. I've always, like, my wife always laughs. She goes, "You've always had great timing in your life," because I listen to my inner intuition, right? I listen to my inner voice all the time because it's not going to be wrong. And don't allow outside influences and factors to pause your greatness or pause your ability to evolve, grow, and change your life and live the life you want to live. And most people don't know how to do that. They're not disciplined enough to do that.
It is such amazing advice. And what I absolutely love, and I want to have you back on the show again, part 2. It is, if you want to get ahead, you got to make a move. When you think about a race car driver, and what do? They do this and they take off. And it is intuition, and it's believing in yourself. And when I tell people, you just have to be the first one to believe that you can do this. Coaching isn't making people great, it's bringing out the greatness you already have and tapping into that and reaching your full potential. Pete Middleton, iconic luxury brand all over now the country, but building an amazing organization. You have so much to give. I love your story. If you're listening to this from the beginning of it to this last portion, it's all about vision and execution and massive action. And wow, I'm just so glad we got to have you on today. Will you come back? I need to have you on again. We're going to talk brokerage. We're going to talk about why this model works so well. We'll do a part 2. Does that work?
Yes. Yeah, no, I would love
Awesome.
that, because I feel there's a lot of misinformation about this. And I don't even call it a model. I call it a business platform that you can plug your business into. It's that powerful. But I feel that a lot of agents, and I was one of them. I'm just like everybody on this podcast. At first, I didn't really understand it.
Yeah.
So I started digging into it, and I was open-minded about it, because I think the most expensive thing in the world in this lifetime is a closed mind. And most people shut down. They say, no, I'm not interested.
Right.
And you don't know what you're saying no to, right? Because I think every human being is offered 1 or 2 great opportunities in their life that changes their trajectory. It changes their path. And if you're not paying attention to those signs from the universe, you could exit too early. And, this is the fast lane. That's going to change your nights, your weekends, your timing with your kids, because it goes by fast. And you just don't want to sit there and say, all I've been doing is working.
Selling houses.
Yeah.
We are in the business of changing lives.
Thanks, Sherri. Have a great week.
Thank you, you too.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks for tuning in to The Sherri Johnson Show. If today's episode gave you a breakthrough or an aha moment, please take action. And don't forget, you can grab your free download of the Sherri Johnson Goldmine Pipeline in the link below and start seeing results right away. Want even more personalized support? Book a free strategy call with our team, or check out our coaching program starting at just $49 a month at sherrijohnson.com. Remember, it takes 5 contacts to get a yes, but with the right strategy, you can get there faster. Let's turn your potential into profits. I'm Sherri Johnson, and I'll see you next week.